All right, so the last step in this process is just going in and seeing where do we have intersect between the buffer and the forest land cover layer. And you see that really it's the forest poly layer and the 200-meter buffer that we're most interested in here. Well, these are both vector layers, and so again, when we're analyzing vector information, we often use the analysis toolbox. So I'm going to open that up. I'm actually going to go to overlay, and I'm going to go to intersect. One of the things that's always good to point out here is that these little show help at the bottom, these are especially useful for these vector tools here, where they give you some understanding of, really what is it that this tool is doing. Because there's lots of different options from erase to union to spatial join. And each one does a slightly different thing when you put two vector layers together. In this particular case, we take the yellow layer and the blue layer, we put them together, and it kicks out this green response, just the areas where those two layers intersect. So that's what we're going to do here is we're going to grab our forest poly layer, and we're going to grab our 200-meter buffer, and we're going to put them together. And I'm going to tell it where I want it to save, and you'll see that I have had a couple of video problems, and so I've run this a couple of different times. So I'll label this forest intersect 2, go ahead and hit OK. Bring this all back in together. What you're going to see here in just a second is you're going to see it kick out a new layer that highlights those differences. I'll go ahead and make that really pop out. Get rid of here. Let me get rid of it doesn't need an outline, right? And so then when I zoom out, what you're going to see is that everything in red is that riparian forest land that we're interested in studying. The assignment asks a few questions that I'm going to ask you to put into your final submission looking at it. One of those might use the 12-digit HUC, which is just a way of dividing up a watershed into the different kind of sub-boundary areas, the drainage areas. This Plover River watershed happens to have 4 of those areas. You can pull that up and start to take a look at the character between the top end, where you see a lot of riparian cover, to the Stevens Point urban part of the watershed that's has much less riparian cover all around. So anyway, that's certainly part of this process. The next step in this is actually moving on to step 1B. And step 1B really is just taking advantage of the fact that what we have created here with this forest poly layer, I'm going to go ahead and turn the buffer off because we are changing gears with your data here. This forest poly layer is this really powerful layer of information. And the next step in the process here is going to allow us to go ahead and take a more detailed look at that. But I am going to go ahead and stop the video here, and I'll pick up again in just a minute with that step in the process.